Today we're going to look at the gathering assignment, and gathering is used to ease the fullness on a larger piece of fabric so it can be joined to a smaller piece of fabric. It's found at waistlines, yokes, and sleeve caps. And to start your assignment, you want to cut one piece of fabric 4 inches long by 8 inches across, and a second piece of fabric 16 inches across by 8 inches long. And usually when you gather, the piece to be gathered is twice as long as the piece it's being gathered to. We're going to use a basting stitch on the sewing machine, which is usually number 4 or 6 to 8 stitches per inch, to sew 3 lines of stitching on the 16-inch edge of the longer fabric. The first line of stitching is at the 5/8. The second line of stitching is at the 4/8 inch, and the third line of stitching is at 6/8. Some methods just use 2 lines of stitching, but you'll see where this third line comes in handy. Keep the lines even, as this makes it easier to pull when you need to pull your stitches, and usually makes nicer gathers. Once you have your lines stitched, you want to gather the 16-inch edge of the fabric to match the 8-inch piece of fabric, and what you do is fasten the bobbin threads at 1 inch. There's a pin through there and it's attached to the edge, and notice that you started about 5/8 of an inch in. That's your seam allowance, and you wrap your basting threads around your pin in a figure 8. Remember that when you're basting, gathering, you want to leave long threads so that you can pull them. And you begin to pull your threads, and when you pull, you want to pull all of the threads from the same side. Okay? Not some from the top and some from the bottom, because they won't pull. You continue pulling until you gather it to match the smaller piece of fabric. Gather the fabric until it's the same size as the edge it's being gathered to, the 8-inch piece, and then you fasten the other side in a figure 8 around the pin, and you want to slide these gathers and adjust them until they're evenly spaced, and you pin the fabrics together. Notice that these are all evenly spaced. You push them with your hands and get them evenly spaced. Then the last step is to stitch a 5/8 inch seam, and you do it on the gathered side between the 5/8 and the 6/8 inch seam. The 5/8 inch seam, when you sew it, should be just a hair shorter, just a thread width shorter than 5/8. So you pin between the 5/8 and 6/8, and then you pull the 6/8 inch thread out, and you sew a 5/8 inch, and your seam is nicely gathered, and then you press the seam up, but you don't press down your gathers, you press in between them, and you remove the basting stitch that shows, which should be your 6/8 inch, and any other thread that might show through. When you hand in your sample, please show me a picture of the seam side and the gathered side.